This is The Sports Life.
Looks, has time, throws it deep to the end zone. He's got Becker. Touchdown! What a catch by Charlie Becker again!
Here we go. Snap is good. The ball's placed down. The kick is up. And the kick is good! Dominic Sabata will walk it off. And Michigan survives at Wrigley.
And they do, and welcome into the Sports Life with Will Tiemann and Dalton Shetler. Two magic moments. Don Fisher gives us a call as Indiana keeps its national championship hopes alive and Big Ten title hopes alive with an incredible catch. And what about Michigan? They're just living on the edge, but they're winning. And at the end of the day, that's all that counts with that great field goal at Wrigley, courtesy of Doug Karsh and the Wolverines of Michigan.
They don't ask how, they ask how many.
That's exactly right. Well, as for our show today, we're going to take a look at the Michigan football program. It was a group, Dalton, that nobody thought was really in contention for much of anything. But they are now. They're in contention to make the college football playoffs.
Still got a long road to hoe with a win over Ohio State maybe in the process of that. But it will be interesting to talk about, and it's interesting where the Wolverines find themselves. Another team that kind of, you look up and all of a sudden they have a case for the college football playoff, the USC Trojans. And we're going to be joined by Jordan Moore of their radio network to take a look at the Trojans and their resume ahead of their matchup with the Oregon Ducks in Eugene this weekend. And on the court, not basketball court, well, it can be basketball court, but we're talking volleyball. Nebraska volleyball is undefeated so far this season. Seems like they're running maybe towards another national championship bid. We'll be talking with the voice of Husker volleyball, John Baylor, later on.
They fill the place up. They never lose. I mean, come on.
What isn't there to love?
I mean, yeah. Is it boring in Lincoln?
That's right.
You never lose, right? Anyway, what about our Sounds of the Week?
For Sounds of the Week, let's go ahead and take a look at State College, PA first, because interim head coach Terry Smith of Penn State picked up his first win as the guy for the Nittany Lions. Did so in East Lansing with a win over Michigan State. And he talked earlier this week about what Penn State means to him.
My dad graduated in 68. It's all we know. I'm from a small town called Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. And it's not a very nice place. And my dad, through his education at Penn State, moved us to the other side of Pittsburgh, to Monroeville, Pennsylvania. And he gave us a better life because of his education here. And it taught our entire family about possibilities in life. And you can be whatever you want to be. And this place has done so much for me and my family. I think we have 9 or 10 family members that have Penn State degrees. I have, I think, 3 that are students now, family members. This place is special. It's amazing. It's you know, I just want to give back to it. I just want to make sure I'm holding my end up of the bargain and putting out a team that everyone can be proud of.
What a strong moment and emotional moment from Terry Smith, the interim head coach at Penn State. And he finally got a football win.
Yeah, that was a really neat moment. And to hear how much it means to him, boy, how do you not get kind of the goosebumps around that quote from Terry Smith? He had some other things to say as well, because Penn State's actually getting ready to welcome in Nebraska this weekend. And head coach Matt Rule of Nebraska, of course, is an alum of Penn State. And there's actually a connection between Terry Smith and Matt Rule and actually how Terry got started in his collegiate coaching career.
Wanted to take you back to 2013. How did that process come about of Matt hiring you on his first staff at Temple? What was Matt Rule like then, and what brought you to Temple to work with him?
Yeah, that was kind of a unplanned hiring, I guess. Back then, I was the head coach at Gateway High School and the athletic director there. Matt Rule came in to recruit one of my players, and long story short, I had a past player of mine that went to Ohio State, and he came back to visit me. He was going through some life-changing decision-making, and so I'm sitting there talking, discussing, blah, 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 whatever. Matt Rule sitting there listening to the conversation. And long story short, Matt appreciated my care for my player at that point. And we just had a discussion, and a day later he offered me the job. So it was a tremendous opportunity for me to grow from high school to college, and I'm thankful for that. I appreciate Matt for taking a chance on me. I'm thankful for our relationship.
Terry Smith, what a great family story, and what a neat story between him and Matt Rule.
I was going to say, I listened to that cut beforehand, and when you hear that story, doesn't it just check out with everything you know or think to assume with Matt Rule? Like,
Yes.
He just has great instincts of people, great judging of humans, and there you get to see it on display. It's a really neat moment they're going to have this weekend. Another head coach in the Big Ten on the football side. We're going to move to Columbus now. Ohio State head coach Ryan Day talked about keeping his Buckeyes motivated. Look, they've been number one in the country, it feels like, all season. And it feels like there hasn't really been any challengers.
Well, they have been number one all season. That's why it feels that way.
That's right. I mean, it feels like it's just been kind of cruise control. So how do you keep the Buckeyes motivated down the home stretch of the season? Well, he said there's some accomplishments and a bit of a reality check. This team needs to get done here this year.
All those things are taken into consideration, but we don't take anything for granted. We don't take we don't make any assumptions. Man, like every week, every Saturday, an opportunity to get to Indianapolis is on the line. That's the way it is here right now. I mean, we want to get to Indy, and we haven't got to Indy here. There's nobody on this team that's been to Indy right now, and they know it. And so, like, that's the edge. You wake up in the morning every day looking to reach our goals. So whoever we play, we play. This is going to be a great challenge this week. We know that. And we just watch across college football every week, and you just see, different teams, challenging each other, and we got to do our part. So we can't worry about what we can't control. And you've heard me say that before. I know it sounds boring, but it's the truth. We got to worry about what we can control.
Well, they've controlled everything so far. And isn't it interesting, though? He talks about this group has never been to Indy to play for the Big Ten title because we're so caught up in their national champions.
That's right. Well, and it feels like we know that, right? We know the recent history between Michigan and Ohio State and how the Buckeyes haven't been to the Big Ten title. But it just doesn't feel right to hear they haven't been to a title game in that long.
Because they're so good.
That's right.
And they've been right there. But at the end of the day, that's why you play, I guess. But can you imagine what will happen, Dalton, if Ohio State goes to Ann Arbor on the last regular season game and loses? Can you imagine that?
They win, 20-some straight games or whatever. They just have the one blip to Michigan, and it still will feel like pitchforks, even though they're national champs, or defending national champs.
I mean, with one loss, they could still go to the title game, possibly, and they're still going to make the college football playoffs, and they still could repeat as champions. But if they don't beat Michigan, oh, brother.
That's why that rivalry is so awesome.
Oh, it is awesome. There's no doubt.
Let's move over to basketball real quick before we cap off the sounds of the week. In West Lafayette, the head man, Matt Painter, hit a career milestone this past week. 500 career wins for Matt Painter. And here's what he had to say afterwards, reflecting back.
I think in time it does. Right now we have a really good team, and I'm, trying to take in this win, not really the number of the win, but just take in the win and wake up tomorrow and get ready for Memphis. I think that's where you kind of stand when you're involved in it. I would think it's a big deal if it wasn't me, but it is me, so I don't think it's a big deal. I'm yet to see, a really good coach with bad players. It's a player's game. Get the right players that fit together. Get them on the bus, get them on time, tell them the truth, and then have a lot of fun with it. And so, we're not drafting them. Like, a lot of people look at you like, why'd you do this, why'd you do that? We're not drafting people. We're recruiting them. They're going to say no to us at times. But how you navigate after people tell you no, like that can really help or hurt your team. But sometimes you're up against it, especially with size. That's why we try to get out in front of a lot of things in recruiting, to really help us. But it's still a difficult task to put a team together at times. I think it's even more difficult in today's game. But just try to learn from it and not be stubborn and do what's best for Purdue.
Matt Painter, You know, it's interesting. One thing he does and Tom Izzo at Michigan State does, those two ball clubs are, I think, a little traditional in terms of how they're built, and it's not a team. I kind of call these players that show up for a year as mercenaries. They don't have a roster of that. And at the end of the day, I think when this Big Ten basketball season is over, the two teams that you're going to see at the top of this thing are Purdue and Michigan State.
I think that's maybe really fair to say. And what's fascinating to me is you're right. It feels like in ways Purdue and Michigan State kind of look in a mirror at each other when it looks at those programs. They do it a little bit differently with their play styles, but the foundation and the bones are the same. And that's why when Rob Blackman had joined us on the Sports Life a week or two ago, and he said when Tom Izzo got the job, he said we need to build this thing like Gene Katie has at Purdue. And then when Matt Painter got the job at Purdue, he said we need to build this thing like Tom Izzo did at Michigan State. I mean, these two really do see things pretty similarly.
Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, we're going to talk about Southern Cal football. Believe it or not, USC is in the hunt for maybe a shot at making the college football playoffs. It's all coming up in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little? But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is the Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay. My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, when the football season began, I don't think anybody much, Dalton was talking about USC. Is Southern Cal going to be in the hunt for a college football playoff berth or even a Big Ten championship? That conversation really wasn't happening. but all of a sudden it is beginning to happen, and they've earned that right to be in that conversation. And joining us to talk about the situation is Jordan Moore, a member of the USC Radio Network team. And Jordan, thanks for joining us. And when this season began, obviously Coach Lincoln was getting a little heat because the year before wasn't so great. Did you see this coming, that this team would get enough momentum to be coming down the stretch in November with a chance to do some really good things?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the way the schedule laid out that they get up to a good start, and they did. They were 4-0 pretty comfortably. And then I thought the whole season would come down to that middle section of the schedule. And just the way it laid out, USC had to conquer its road demons. Last season, that was the issue. The Trojans, as you said, the record was not very good last year, but it was not for lack of competitiveness. They were in every single game, and they just continued to lose these heartbreaking road games over and over again. And this year, they've won a couple. They won at Nebraska. I thought that was the real pivot game of the season. A one-possession game on the road in a brutal place to play in a cold night and all that, and took care of business there. And then, they've been a very good home team and handled some physical teams at home. That was the other hurdle that they needed to get over was, could they handle the physicality of this league? And they dominated Michigan in the Coliseum, and then came back against Iowa and dominated the second half against that game, against that team, winning the trenches in both games. And so, that's the growth of this program. The reason that they're here right now is because they've improved on the road and because they've improved on the line of scrimmage.
Well, and what's interesting to me, too, Jordan, is you take a look at the resume for USC. I mean, there's so much talk about the losses. How bad are a team's losses? How good are a team's losses this year? It seems to be a lot of the playoff committee's focus is on the losses. And if we look at the Trojans, you have a loss at Notre Dame. Again, one of those road games you talked about, 34-24, but Notre Dame's 9th in the country, according towards that college football playoff committee. And then also a 2-point loss at Illinois when the Illini seemed like maybe a little bit of a different team. Overall, this is a strong resume that feels like it kind of slipped under the radar for folks.
Yeah, I mean, even Illinois now, I believe, is back in the CFP top 25. 21st. And so so when you throw in Oregon this week, the Trojans had 3 top 25 road games this season. I can't imagine that there are many teams in the country that played 3 top 25 road games. I mean, most of these teams work very hard on their schedules to avoid these exact situations. So, that's been the challenge for USC. And, I think to make the playoff, they're going to have to win one of these top 25 road games. That's the challenge of the week because they did lose the other 2, but they have just sort of handled their business in those other games, but certainly no shame in the losses that they had. I think the one that's most regrettable is that Illinois game. USC a little banged up on defense that day and just did not play very well on that side of the football. The offense was actually pretty lights out. Mekhi Lemon almost willed him to a comeback on that early morning game in Champaign. But, that was a day where the defense did not play its best and they lose the field goal at the end. So that's probably the one that, felt like it slipped away this season. Notre Dame is just a very good team and, very difficult to beat in South Bend, always has been.
Well, guys, we're looking at the standings. We have Indiana 8-0, Ohio State 7-0, USC 6-1, along with Oregon and Michigan. So having said all that, I'll throw this out there. If USC can go to Oregon and win, that would be huge, right? Does that knock Oregon out, and does that really solidify USC, assuming they beat UCLA in the final?
Yeah, I think this is a de facto playoff game for both teams, and that's why it's probably the game of the week this week. It certainly has been playoff for USC for a couple weeks now, knowing that they had to win out to make it. You have to feel good about next week, even though it's a rivalry game with UCLA back home, and the Bruins have had a kind of a wild season, but. Winning at Oregon, extremely difficult if you can get a win of that caliber. You guys talk about, resumes and avoiding bad losses, but, this would be quality win right near the top. Obviously, Indiana has done it already, and that's why they're at the top of the list among everybody's resume. But for USC, I think this makes them a lock if they were to win out.
Well, what goes into a win or success at Autzen Stadium? Because in this matchup, I think you have two of the best quarterbacks the Big Ten has to offer with Jaden Mayava at USC, Dante Moore at Oregon. Is there any difference in the quarterback play in that head-to-head competition? And where are the other margins that USC needs to win?
I think there's going to have to be a difference in the quarterback play. Just doing my research and preparing for Oregon, I've watched them a few times this season. But they're a really complete football team. This is just not one where you walk in and you go, well, they really struggle in pass defense, and we have a great pass offense, and so we know we're going to light them up there. I mean, just across the board, it's a top 10 offense in the country. It's a top 10 defense in the country. It's actually rated, number one pass defense in the country. So, USC's greatest strength is certainly going to be tested in this game. And so, I look at Oregon, and they're so explosive running the football. The yards per carry is off the charts. They got a couple of guys that are just real game breakers, and USC's run defense has been, kind of hit or miss lately over the last few weeks. So, the Trojans are going to have to be tough there and then force Dante Moore to try to win the game. And you kind of just need Dante Moore to have a dud game, I think. I think turnovers will play a huge role. USC has not won at Autzen since 2011. So it's not an easy place to play. It's not an easy team to play against. But, I think USC's feeling like it's peaking at the right time and just simply needs to put its best game out there. And maybe Oregon doesn't.
Jordan, you're one of the 4 new members. We're talking now title runs. We're talking about playoff potential wins, and we're talking about you going to Oregon, and we're talking about the Big Ten. I mean, is it settled in with everybody that this is not the Pac-12 anymore? It is the Big Ten, and that's what you're trying to win?
Well, for sure, and I think that I think the teams have stood out and done really well across the board. I don't know how much everyone follows every sport, but I certainly do. And I think that the 4 West Coast teams have been a real boon to this conference. And Oregon went in the league last year in football and ran through it and won the league. And ultimately Ohio State, took them down in the playoff and won it all. But Oregon has been pretty dominant in football since coming in. USC's was okay last year and excellent this season. And then, I look across the board in some other sports and the 4, old Pac-12 schools have been fantastic. So, I think from that standpoint, that was a big question coming in, how good was the old league and, would these teams be able to compete in an elite league like the Big Ten? And I think it's funny because the Big Ten, it's not like the Big Ten has come back to these teams at all. This is probably the best Big Ten football has ever been. I mean, for years it was playing second fiddle a little bit to the SEC, and I think right now it's playing second fiddle to no one. And the addition of Oregon and USC has helped get the league over the top, because instead of it just being Ohio State, Michigan, and a little bit of Penn State, now the league's 5-6 deep with contenders. The middle's gotten stronger, and on and on. So it's an awfully tough league. It's a very difficult league to win on the road, and the travel, I think, both ways has really changed the game there. Everyone looks at, talks about how hard it's been for the West Coast schools going east, and because they have to do it so much more. But I don't think the East schools going west have fared much better. We saw Penn State's season unravel, having to come to UCLA. Michigan got dominated at the Coliseum, so it's not easy either way.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys something, a secret. The coolest thing about Southern Cal for me joining the Big Ten, right? I've been out to your guys' place for one football game and one basketball game. When the band fires up Tusk, that is so cool. That is like my favorite moment.
Did you see what happened 2 weeks ago? Two weeks ago, Mick Fleetwood was in attendance and played the drums with the band to Tusk. So that would have really been the apex for you.
I would have probably grabbed my chest. That would have been all over for me. That would have been cool.
There's a video. You can give it a search on social media. There's some really cool videos of Mick Fleetwood rocking out with the USC band.
Well, when we hang up, I'm going to do it. There's no question. Well, Jordan, I hope you guys have a great broadcast. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much.
So there you go. Some of the thoughts from Jordan Moore from the USC Radio Network. And when we come back with more of the sports life, we're going to take a look at another team trying to get some quality wins and get into the college football playoffs, and that's Michigan. It's all coming up in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's Get It Done Right with some help. Fight!
Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, there's a lot of talk about who may or may not make the college football playoffs in the Big Ten. And one of the teams that was not in any of the conversations in the preseason was Michigan. We talked about what? Ohio State, Penn State, maybe Indiana, maybe Illinois, Oregon. Mm-hmm. No Michigan. Well, here we sit with a couple games to go in this season, and the Wolverines are 8-2 on the year. They're currently riding a 4-game winning streak, and they have 2 games left at Maryland, which they will be projected to win. And then they host the number 1 team in all the land, Ohio State. And a win there could really upset the apple cart in terms of who gets where. So, having said that, we've asked Brian Boesch to join us from the Michigan Radio Network. And as we go through this scenario, Brian, what is the feeling in Ann Arbor about these last 2 and the chance of getting back into the college football playoffs?
Well, guys, thanks for having me as always. I think there's certainly been some lack of confidence just based on how the last few games have transpired. Michigan needing pretty much all 60 minutes to hold off Purdue, then their second bye week, and then coughing it up 5 times and still finding a way to win at Wrigley Field over Northwestern on a game-winning field goal. If Michigan plays like they played against Purdue or Northwestern, heck, if they play that way this weekend in College Park, it might be tough to get out of there with a win, let alone facing Ohio State next week. Now, the amazing thing is that they have found their way to 8-2. It has not been pretty by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, in this 12-team era, Michigan, if they can finish 10-2, they'd have probably the best win in the country by beating Ohio State. That's how impressive the Buckeyes have been through their first 10 games of the season. So yeah, I think it's more than anything else, a great opportunity for a pretty young team, true freshman quarterback, true freshman emerging wide receiver, and Andrew Marsh, young offensive line, a ton of pieces, freshman through fifth-year guys in the defensive side of things. It's good experience for them to play this, but we all know how this goes. You don't put in all this work from January till now just to get ready for next year. They believe that they have a shot. They do have a shot. They've been in playoff mode since they lost their second game at USC, and they've won 4 straight against Ohio State. Buckeyes should be favored in that game. They will be favored in that game next week. Michigan's just trying to set it up to where they can make it as important as it deserves to be by being 9-2 and probably playing for a CFP spot in that game.
Well, Brian, you mentioned that Michigan has found their way to 8-2. It hasn't been pretty all the time for the Wolverines, but sometimes we mark that as the characteristics of a good football team. If you find ugly ways to win, as long as you're still winning, is that kind of what you're seeing here, or are there some sloppy different areas that really concern you down the stretch here?
I think through October, Dalton, it was a pretty good football team. November has not been there. Purdue's one of the worst teams in the league, and Northwestern, they're tough. They play their tails off, and I thought they had a really good game plan. Michigan was able to kind of just – it really was a defensive win more than anything else. I think this is a very, very good defense. I think this is an offense that certainly has more potential than the one had last year, and at times we see it. It's not a surprise that over the last 5 games, Michigan has had 1 turnover-free game, and that was their one game during the stretch where you really felt like you saw Michigan at, B+, A- type of a performance, and that was at home against Washington in a battle at the time of 2 teams that were still kind of hoping to make a late playoff surge. Michigan's hung around and done it defensively. I don't know if they're quite as good as that defense that went into Columbus and pulled the upset last year, but they have a shot to be. They have the upside of that. Offensively better. And one area that's really cost them and almost cost them against Northwestern is special teams. Michigan has scuffled mightily in that game. Dominic Zavada was, in my estimation, I know he didn't win the award, but he was the best kicker in the country last year. Only missed 1 kick. He missed 2 in that game. 1 was from 60. You get it. He just missed it, but he missed 1 from 34 yards early on in the ball game. That made that last one that actually did go through and got the Michigan win a little nerve-wracking. But special teams, I don't think they're going to win Michigan a game this year because they've come close to losing some games this season. They just need to be neutral, execute on offense, and then let the defense try to go win it for them.
Brian, pressure is always a big part of everything, and the pressure is mounting to win because the stakes are high. Within that Michigan locker room, are you feeling anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always pressure at Michigan. There's always pressure in the Big Ten, right? You got 18 proud programs that believe that they have the resources, the talent, the effort to, maybe not all of them go into every season saying we can go to the college football playoff, but they believe they can hit the upper bound of what their range of outcomes can be. And Michigan's upper bound was always going to be to make the college football playoff. Was it the 50th percentile outcome? No, probably not, but it was probably pretty close, right? And Michigan's had a unique schedule where they've played 6 road games as of this weekend against Maryland. This is a team that has shown flashes, especially defensively. So yeah, I think saying that that Michigan is playing with house money the rest of the way, I don't think is true. Now, I do think that this season, no matter what happens, will be a great developmental juncture for this team because there's real talent that is young, that has eligibility left, and that can't go to the NFL yet on this team, both sides of the football. So no matter what happens, them getting this experience in these games will help with confidence moving forward. But again, if you're at Michigan and you've been to the playoff 3 of the last 4 years and you're better than last year's team that didn't, there's pressure there. Now, there might be more pressure on the Buckeyes come November 29th, and we all know why. They've lost 4 in a row in the series. But there's pressure on Michigan, too, because we've all seen in that rivalry how one result that changes the norm, or the recent norm, can really flip it. Ohio State owned Michigan for almost 2 decades, and now Michigan hasn't lost to them since 2019.
You know, it's interesting. You keep going back to the youth of this Michigan football team, and it's really highlighted and led by the quarterback, Bryce Underwood. There was so much hype about Bryce Underwood coming into college. We've seen the highs. We've seen maybe some growing pains at times for Bryce Underwood. What has been your evaluation of the freshman star quarterback?
Yeah, Dalton. I mean, he is dripping with talent. You see the tools, the physicality, the arm strength, all of it. I think now it's about refining the processing, the decision making, because he's had a couple of freshman games here. Is it the freshman wall? We'll see, right? Like it certainly has that type of vibe, but he has the opportunity here in the last 2 games, and for Michigan, hopefully beyond that, to find a way to break through it. I mean, he's had 3 interceptions in the last 2 games, had 2 picks the entire season before then. He's made some mistakes. He's, I think, a little off on some reads, but we saw the flashes against Washington earlier in the season. I thought he made some really solid throws against Wisconsin. Like, it's there. You see why he was the number 1 overall prospect. But yeah, I mean, it's not quite there. And I think the expectations for whoever is the number 1 quarterback in the country who plays as a true freshman are always going to be unfair, whether it's at Michigan or any other school. Because if you're that highly touted, people just expect, oh, well, this must be easy. But it's a huge jump from Belleville High School to the Big House or Wrigley Field or the Coliseum or Norman or Lincoln, all that. So the other aspect of him that I've liked is the running game has continued to be a big threat. Now, I'd still like to see him slide more. He's a tank. He's going to be fine in most cases, but you want your quarterback to protect himself a little bit more. But his running game, which was a question early in the year, has really become a key part of what he can do, what this Michigan team can do. But yeah, the talent's there. And now here's his chance to really put a stamp on what's been an inconsistent, but I think a long-term encouraging season.
I'm going to throw something out to you, Brian, and you, Dalton. It dawns on me, and I think we had talked about this, with no divisions in the Big Ten and only the top 2 guys going. For a lot of schools, you're going, what am I playing for? Because I can't win the West or the East. I'm out of it. But because of the college football playoffs, I mean, I don't think anybody thinks Michigan's going to win the Big Ten, right?
Correct.
But yet they still have something to play for, which I think is kind of a neat thing. And who would have thought a college football playoff would put more interest in the Big Ten regular season, because we know who's going to play for the championship, we think.
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting question, but you do realize in this case, once you do hit that 3rd loss, then it just becomes completely irrelevant, right? Washington was a trendy topic in October, and I thought deservedly so. And they've had some intriguing wins, and I think they've got some unique pieces that are younger. But once you hit that 3rd loss in the Big Ten or the SEC or SEC, and then the ACC and Big 12, if you hit your 2nd loss, you're kind of an afterthought. So it definitely is. I think it adds more pretty big games, but there is, I mean, if Michigan were to have been undefeated and Ohio State's undefeated, then that luster from that game, which was so good in 21, 22, and 23, goes away. So I'm all for more teams being involved, but it is interesting thinking how elite you had to be in order to make the college football playoff in the 4-team era, where, I mean, Michigan wouldn't be much of a topic. So yeah, there's some give and take to that for sure. And obviously Michigan is thankful that this is a year where they have the 12-team playoff, because it might have changed some of the conversation points for many teams, Michigan and elsewhere, around the Big Ten in previous seasons.
I was going to say, one of the takes or downside of it is it feels like that game in Indianapolis in a couple of weekends, who really cares? I mean, it's really just about being in that college football playoff.
Indiana would care, and that's what I think is really interesting, Dalton, because a Big Ten championship at IU would resonate for decades. Now, who knows? Maybe Kurt Cignetti has this thing humming for a decade plus. There's certainly a non-zero chance. I'm not going to doubt him and that program, because they've blown my expectations away for the last almost 2 seasons now. So it will resonate there, but absolutely that is a long-term concern, and I think it's something that needs to be discussed, whether we stay at 12 or move to 16, or maybe if you two and I can get 8 others and we make the 256 team playoff down the road.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned championship at Indiana. You left off the word football. None of us would have ever believed that word would fit into the term Indiana Big Ten champion, ever.
Well, I'll tell you, Will, what I really appreciate about that, and it's very similar to what happened to Michigan in 2023. When Michigan was at Penn State, Jim Harbaugh circling the Beaver Stadium, wondering if he can coach. We all knew at that time no matter the result, we were watching history unfold in real time. And I think that's the coolest aspect of what Indiana has done, is that where the program had been and where it is now, we are watching history unfold in real time. Whether or not they win the Big Ten, go to the national championship, win the national championship, which is all within the range of outcomes. No matter what, we're seeing something that for decades never felt possible, or never felt like, how in the heck would that happen? And that's what I appreciate about Curt Cignetti and Indiana. We are watching history unfold in front of us.
Well, Brian, I hope you guys have a great broadcast this weekend, and as always, we appreciate it.
No, I will, Dalton. Appreciate you guys.
As always, a fun chat with Brian Boesch. Of course, he's the voice of Michigan basketball and a part of the football broadcast as well. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the great venues for volleyball. It's coming up in just a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little? But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, there are dynasties, and one has got to be volleyball in Nebraska. 5 national titles, 6 times they finished second, countless Final Four appearances, and any time Nebraska shows up, I don't care how many seats there are in the arena, they sell them all. And a guy who's in his 32nd year of calling all this action is joining us now, our guest, John Baylor. And John, thanks for joining the show. And
thank you.
Before we talk about this phenomena called Nebraska volleyball, by the way, ranked number 1 in the country right now, heading into the week and unbeaten, 26-0 and 16-0 in the Big Ten. 32 years of this. Did you have any guess 32 years later you'd still be doing this?
No, this was not particularly planned, and I could barely spell volleyball when I got the gig. So no, I remember at the end of my third season, I'm thinking this might be it. But, with all the ownership changes and in the network rights, it's just pretty unusual for someone to hold a gig like this for so many years. But it's it's a box seat to the greatest show on Terraflex.
Well, that it most certainly is. And that greatest show is in a new chapter this year. Long-time head coach John Cook ended up retiring from Nebraska, and you have a new head coach there. And what do you know, without skipping a beat, off to that undefeated start Will mentioned just a couple of moments ago, how have things been different in Lincoln, and how are they still staying up to the same standard?
Boy, she fits like a glove. I mean, Danny Busboom Kelly comes from here. She grew up about 20 miles south of Lincoln. She played for the Huskers, won a national championship in 2006, went to Louisville, and in 8 years won 82% of her matches. And in the last 4 years, won 88% of her matches. And now with the run this year, since the beginning of 2021, Danny Busboom Kelly has won 91% of her matches. So just a stunning Midas touch she has with coaching. So what stayed the same are the standards, the expectations, the success on the court, the connection with the program at the top, and the knowledge of the history and the expectations. What's changed is she's just really enjoying the ride and letting them scrimmage a little bit more in practice, letting the players have a little more control. I mean, they just seem to have a lot of fun right now, and Danny's enjoying it herself on the sideline. She's laughing, and Coach Cook, he was an old guard coach. I mean, he certainly had softened in the last 10 plus years and evolved, but he retired when he was 68 years old, and here's Coach Danny Busboom Kelly, who just turned 40, just had her second child, and so there's we've got a 3-year-old boy running around at the hotel on the road. I mean, so there are a lot of changes in just her approach, but there are certainly a lot of similarities.
It's one thing for us, John, to talk about what's going on right now, but where did this all start? At some point, when did volleyball in Nebraska become part of the fiber? It's amazing, but where did it all start? What triggered this?
Well, I grew up in the early 70s in Lincoln and never heard of volleyball. It was non-existent. And then we got a coach named Terry Pettit who started in 1977. He just was an evangelist. He was not the most extroverted guy. He's a very cerebral guy, but he just decided, you know what? He's not just going to focus on wins and losses. He's going to focus on growing the pie, growing the sport, and locally first and then ultimately nationally. And he just started piling up all these Big 8 championships, and it was just so lopsided. Nebraska just won conference title after conference title annually in the old Big 8 and then the Big 12 until Texas really got rolling after Terry retired. Really, the Huskers under Terry Pettit were just synonymous with success. The Coliseum, which used to seat 4,200, started getting filled up every match starting in like '88. And so when I got back into town in '93, there was this phenomenon of Nebraska volleyball, this juggernaut. It was filled with in-state kids, and just like boys, we grew up wanting to play for Husker football. Girls in the state wanted to play for Husker volleyball, and so many of our national championship teams have had in-state kids from Papillion and Omaha and Ogallala and Bertrand and small town Nebraska with 2,500 citizens. Like Cambridge, Nebraska, the ratio of national players of the year to stoplights is 1-0. Christina Hotelling won the National Player of the Year, but there's not a stoplight in town. That's how they built this program. And then John Cook made it even bigger.
You know, it's interesting. We've talked a lot about Nebraska and selling out crowds and everything else. There's so much talent. I mean, you bring up some of the former names. There's still currently the star of Harper Murray, but if people haven't been paying attention to this year's squad, this year's edition of Husker Volleyball, first off, shame on them. But, you know, there is a lot going on with football, the basketball seasons, hockey, everything. Who do people need to pay attention to down this stretch and for the postseason?
Well, it's really a team effort. When we played number 17 USC in their home floor, the Galen Center in Los Angeles on Sunday afternoon, jam-packed crowd, biggest they've ever seen, more than 9,000 there. You had one Husker got 8 kills, another got 9 kills, and 3 others got 10 kills. So what you have to say is that the star of the show right now is Bergen Riley, the setter. And in my opinion, she's one of 4 in the conversation for National Player of the Year. Setter has not won that award since Madison Lilly did it in 2020, the COVID year with Kentucky. And then before that, you got to go all the way back to 2014, Micah Hancock. Anyway, the setter's numbers don't jump off a page like, Tori Stafford right now for Texas hitting about 500, about 400, more than 5 kills a set. But what she's done is created all these stars and really made them blend together in this cohesive unit, which absolutely puts team first. And it's just, you notice it when the set's off. But that's how terrific she has been to date this year. So I think if the season ended right now, Bergen Riley would be my choice for National Player of the Year. But she's the one who gets hidden, right? Because you're watching the big swings, the kills, the caroms, the kabooms. Those are coming from Harper Murray. Andy Jackson is one of the great athletes. She's a generational. She's not a once a decade athlete. Andy Jackson's a once a generation athlete. So they're great athletes, but the one that makes it all hum is the setter, Bergen Riley.
John, the Big Ten. There's Nebraska. There's Wisconsin. There's Penn State. These are major programs that have won national titles. Does it surprise you at all that the best conference in all the land is the Big Ten, basically Midwest teams?
No, because the power of the sport moved eastward geographically when the West Coast really kind of embraced the sport initially, but they didn't support it. There's no fans at Pauley Pavilion when UCLA is playing. There's maybe 1,000. Now against the Huskers, they had 10,300, but 70% red. But I'll say this year, Will, that the Big Ten's not the best conference. In the country. Penn State's way down. They lost Izzy Stark for the year. That's a tragic story. Wisconsin's looking better now that Charlie Feuerbringer's back as their starting setter. But I think top to bottom, there's an argument that there's the least range. The top to bottom, it doesn't fall off a cliff necessarily at the bottom, whereas it does at the bottom of the SEC. It does at the bottom of the ACC. Like, you go play Syracuse or Boston College, it's not going to be very competitive. Whereas the top of the ACC, you got 5 teams that think they have a chance at a national championship. Right now in the Big Ten, probably just 2.
Well, John, as always, appreciate the time. Good luck the rest of the way.
Good fun. Great to talk to you guys anytime.
John Baylor, the voice in Nebraska volleyball. Back with our parting shots in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Miller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, we've had a fun show this week, trying to figure out who or who may not get into the college football playoffs from the Big Ten. And it's always interesting to me to talk about Nebraska volleyball. It's one of the great phenomena in the world of sports, period. So we have now worked our way to our parting shot. So, Dalton, what are you thinking?
Well, first off, a reminder to everybody to make sure you check us out and follow us at Sports Life Now on X. That's again at Sports Life Now. We'll have everything posted there. But for my parting shot, I'm taking a look at the school in Ann Arbor, the Michigan Wolverines, because what a moment they're having right now for their athletic department. We talked earlier about football and the case maybe that the Wolverines could push for the college football playoffs yet again. But on the basketball court, the women's program, off of a 39-point win against a ranked Notre Dame team, now is ranked 6th in the country, and the men's program is 7th in the nation. That's the first time ever that the men and women of Michigan have been ranked in the top 10 at the same time. So they're doing some great things on the hardwood floor, but also on the ice. Number 2 in the country is the Michigan hockey team. So a lot of pretty good things happening right now for the Wolverines.
Going back to college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a reason why we love college basketball, because we really can't quite figure it out. We think we can. Most days maybe, but some days not so much. And I'm going to use Michigan State as a prime example. They take on an Arkansas team that's really good, and they beat them. And they go 1 for 14 from three-point range. 1 for 14. Me and you could do that, I think. So then they go to Madison Square Garden, and they play Kentucky, who by design likes to shoot around 35 threes a game. That's their game. So when the game is over, Michigan State beats Kentucky, but Michigan State, the 1 for 14 team, makes 11 threes. Michigan State, the team that gets to the free throw line a lot, made 8 free throws. They go to the Garden where they never shoot well. They make more threes than Kentucky, and they make more threes than they make free throws. So if you can figure any of that out, God bless you.
That's right.
Because that's why we love college basketball. And with that, that's a wrap for our show this week. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.